Welcome to Bald Guy DIY. In this video, I want to help you put the joy back into your Joy-Con. The Joy-Con controllers for the Nintendo Switch are really an incredible piece of engineering and design, but unfortunately they have a weakness in the joystick. It tends to wear out and do funny things, like you can see when my daughter was playing Zelda Breath of the Wild. So in this video, I'm going to show you how you can replace those joysticks with some ones that are available online, and how easy it is to swap out the joystick and breathe new life into these Joy-Con. The whole repair costs about $20 instead of $100 for a new set of Joy-Con. So let's get started. The kit I bought came with 2 joysticks, a couple of screwdrivers, and a few pry tools in order to open the case. It also came with a little bit of hardware and some extra screws, but I decided not to use those. I'm going to start with the left Joy-Con. I flip it over and remove the little 3-prong screws from the back of the case. Once that's done, I slide one of the separating tools along the edge and all the way around in order to separate 2 halves of the shell. Inside is a battery. I remove the battery, and leaving it connected, I just swing it out of the way. All the internal components use Phillips screws, so now I remove the plate that's attached to the circuit board. Once that's done, I have access to 1 screw on the Joy-Con, so I remove that screw with the Phillips screwdriver. There is 1 screw that's hidden behind the minus button, so I also had to remove the screws for that. I was careful not to pull too hard on that piece because it has a ribbon cable as well, and I didn't want to damage it. With the minus button removed, it's now possible to remove the rest of the joystick and separate it from the housing. Remove the ribbon cable gently. You can either pull or use tweezers to give you a little bit of leverage. Now I'm going to simply put the new joystick in place and be able to attach it to the circuit board using the screws. If you're careful with all the components, you can keep them dangling from the ribbon cables without removing any of them. If you do remove them, you'll simply just have to put them back, so be careful to note where everything belongs. It's fairly straightforward though. Once you have the components in place, it's possible to just start putting back the screws that you took out. After replacing the minus button and the joystick, now it's time to put the screws back into the little circuit board and then place the plate on top of it and return the screws for it as well. With all those screws in place, I put the battery back in its component and then go to snap it together. About this time that we noticed that I had actually lost the left button bumper, and so I simply separated the case again, put the left bumper in place, and then snap it back together. Time to put the screws back in. And after putting the screws back in, I check all the buttons and the joystick to make sure they all function properly. Now it's time to start the right side Joy-Con. Again, it's just 4 simple screws to remove and using the little spreader tool in order to go around the edge and separate the pieces. Now there is an extra component on this. There's a little wire connecting a sensor, so you just need to be careful that that gets back in the right place. After removing the outer shell, simply going to remove that base plate again. The battery was a little bit harder to get out on this side, more adhesive, but that just slides apart. And this joystick is easier to have access to because there aren't any ribbon cables blocking the way. After removing the 2 screws for the joystick, set it aside and put the new one in place. If you fit the screw head onto the screwdriver first, it makes it easier to put them in place accurately. The screws are very tiny. After replacing that, I just again am going to install the plate. Feed that little cable back into the track that holds the sensor and put the battery back in place. I use the tweezers to feed that cable inside the track, and then it's time to close it back up again. This time I didn't lose a bumper in the process, so it was a lot easier to go and simply put the screws back into the outer shell. Testing all the buttons again. Now it's time to try it out, and there is no movement on the Zelda game when there isn't supposed to be. So now you can see how to get your own controllers back into action and once again bring joy to your family playing the games that you love. If you like the videos we're creating, please consider subscribing, share them with your friends and family, all the creative people in your life. We're creating new videos all the time, so be sure to check back regularly. Leave us a comment below what kind of projects you'd like to see in the future, or any ideas for improving the channel. And until next time in all your projects, hopefully ones that bring you joy, don't be afraid to be bolder.